Greetings, fellow dungeon delvers, and welcome to Dorans and Dragons, where we work together to come up with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition builds for your favorite League of Legends champions. Today we're building Mordekaiser, the Iron Revenant. Sanuzal was a fierce warlord whose conquest left few standing in his wake. Those who did were conscripted into his bloody empire. With all the glory he had accomplished in his life, he was furious to discover that the afterlife he was promised didn't happen. His furious will refused to allow his spirit to move on, and he hung in stasis as a vengeful spirit. Finally, a group of sorcerers sought to claim Sanuzal as a weapon and attempted to resurrect him. Lacking a corporeal form, he had them infuse him into a dark metal suit of armor. Completing the ritual, they attempted to bind him using the name Sanuzal. Before he slaughtered them, he spoke his true name to them, Mordekaiser. From the souls of the sorcerers and even more of this strong black metal, he forged a powerful mace, known as Nightfall. He took the army the sorcerers had gathered and led them onto a second brutal conquest. Before we get started with the build, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when we release our builds. We'd like to take a minute and thank our awesome patrons over on Patreon who support us every month. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on and the iron standing eternal. If you like our videos and want to support the channel, come join us over on Patreon today for just $1 to get access to our awesome Discord community, where we talk League and D&D all day long. Alright, now let's get into it. Here's a quick preview of the build. For race, we're going with Warforged. Per usual, our stats are going to be determined using the standard array. For our stat priorities, we're going to max strength and dump intelligence. We do have a multi-class requirement of 13 in charisma and strength. Our leveling path is going to be levels 1 through 7 in Fighter, and then going straight Warlock for 13 levels afterwards. Mord's passive, Darkness Rise, is going to be Investiture of Flame. Our Q, Obliterate, is going to come from Eldritch Smite and Great Weapon Master. His W, Indestructible, comes from Shield and False Life. Our E, Death's Grasp, will come from Grasp of Hadar. And finally we get our ultimate, Realm of Death, from Force Cage. For race, we're going with Warforged. Warforged gain a +2 to Constitution, and we'll pick up a +1 to Strength as well. They also have a few helpful features to get our Iron Revenant even more durable. Constructor Resilience is going to make us immune to disease, give us resistance to poison damage and advantage on saves against being poisoned, and we don't need to eat, drink, breathe, or sleep, which is honestly for the birds anyway. Sentry's Rest is going to let you sit and keep watch over your army in an inactive, motionless state. You're completely conscious though, so if someone does roll up, you introduce them to Nightfall and hop back down into Sentry mode. Specialized Design is going to give us proficiency in Survival. And finally we have Integrated Protection. This is going to bump our AC by 1 and allow us to integrate our armor into our body, which will stop anyone from being able to remove it against our will. For background, we're keeping it simple and respectful of his warring past with Soldier. That'll give us proficiency with Athletics and Intimidation, and the Military Rank feature. This will definitely take some work with your DM, but basically you can acquire equipment and resources from any soldiers and camps loyal to your cause. For stats, we're going to balance the line between life and death with the standard array. Roll if you want to, just keep a 13 in strength and charisma for multi-classing purposes. We're going to open up with a 15 in strength to bring Nightfall down hard on our enemies. Your DM is going to need a mop when you're done with their monsters. Constitution is next to give us some tankiness and to let us stand in a crowd taking some hits. We'll take Charisma after that for our powerful, intimidating presence. Wisdom is going to be a 12 for our lessons learned through our conquest. Dexterity is going to be average since we're a slow-moving juggernaut. And finally, we'll dump Intelligence. For equipment, we'll start off with a suit of chainmail, since it's the strongest starting armor. But we'll want to upgrade that to plate armor ASAP. We'll also take a Maul as Nightfall for that super strong 2d6 bludgeoning strike. It's heavy as well, which will come up later. Alrighty, we're going to tackle the Warlord part of the build first with some levels in Fighter. Fighters have a d10 hit die and are going to give us proficiency in History and Perception. We're also going to pick the Great Weapon fighting style to suit Nightfall, which will let us reroll the first 1s or 2s we get on our damage die, which we'll get a lot more use out of since we're using 2d6s instead of 1d12. Our final level 1 feature is going to be Second Wind. This will also give us the heal from Indestructible. As a bonus action, you can regain HP equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. And if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Please use this before you burn any hit die on a short rest, since this will recharge at the end of said short rest. Second level fighters gain one of the best features in the game, Action Surge. Action Surge allows you to push yourself to the limit and take an additional action on your turn once per rest. Once we hit Warlock 11, this will let us get a full Mord combo in one turn. Level 3 fighters choose their martial archetype. We're going to let our dark magic enhance our combat with Eldritch Knight. Eldritch Knights gain two features at this level, Weapon Bond and Spellcasting. Weapon Bond is going to allow us to perform a ritual on Nightfall, similar to Pact of the Blade, allowing us to summon the weapon as a bonus action and stop it from being disarmed from us. For our spellcasting, the only spell we're going to pick up at this level is going to be Shield, which will be the shield portion of our W. As a reaction to being hit or targeted by the magic missile spell, you can increase your AC by 5 or block the magic missile spell entirely, which will last until the start of your next turn. 4th level fighters gain the first ability score improvement of the build. As always, we're going to lay out all of the options here so you can pick and choose which path you'd like to take. At this level, we're going to take Great Weapon Master. Anytime we crit or finish off a creature, we'll be able to make an attack as a bonus action. More importantly though, we can take a -5 to hit to add a flat 10 damage to our attack's damage. This will really help Obliterate live up to its name. At Fighter 6, we're going to learn the Meta Magic Adept feat, which will give us 2 sorcery points and a Meta Magic option to use them with. We're going to go with Quicken Spell so later we can cast Eldritch Blast as a bonus action, which I'll explain in a bit. At Warlock levels 4 and 8, we're going to max our strength out with 2 points at each level. And finally, at Warlock 12, we'll take the Tough feat for 40 free hit points, 2 for each character level you have. Level 5 fighters gain extra attack, which is going to let us smack some fools with Nightfall twice per attack action instead of once. This will be important when we need to trigger our passive in the combo. For our final level in Fighter, we'll pick up the War Magic feature, which will give us our EQ combo in a few levels. Anytime we use our action to cast a cantrip, we can make a melee attack as a bonus action. Alrighty, now it's time to switch over some levels in Warlock. Warlocks only have a D8 hit die, so we're taking a little bit of a durability hit, but it's not a big deal. We also don't pick up any new proficiencies. We do choose our patron to form a pact with, though. Hypothetically, our patron will be ourselves as the Undying Revenant, but work with your DM to make it work. This is going to give us an expanded spell list, giving us the heal for our W with False Life. False Life is going to let you grant yourself 1d4 plus 4 temporary hit points for an hour. Cast at max level, this is going to give you a possible 28 hit point temporary hit point buffer, so it's nothing to scoff at. We'll also gain the Form of Dread, which is a bonus action activated minute-long transformation that'll give us a few features for the duration. We'll gain 1d10 plus our Warlock level and temporary hit points. Also, once per turn, we can force a Wisdom save on a creature when we hit it, making it frightened if it fails. And finally, we're immune to being frightened in this form. The last thing we need to cover this level is our cantrip we'll be expanding upon next level, Eldritch Blast. This is the Warlock bread and butter cantrip that deals 1d10 force damage if you land a spell attack roll. Second level Warlocks gain their Eldritch Invocations, which I always describe as the passive effect given to offset the clunkiness of the packed slot system. I'm going to break them all down here, and you can pick them up as you go. The first is going to be Fiendish Vigor, which will let us cast False Life on ourselves at will as a first level spell. Eldritch Smite is going to be the oomph from our queue. Once per turn, when we hit a creature, we can expend a spell slot to deal an extra 1d8 force damage, plus an extra 1d8 per spell slot level, and the creature is knocked prone if it's huge or smaller. No save. Improved Pact Weapon is going to give us a +1 to attack and damage rolls with Nightfall, and let us use it as a spellcasting focus, which when we get our ult will give us the iconic pose of Mord holding his mace out and taking you to the Shadow Realm. Life Drinker is going to give each of our strikes necrotic damage equal to our charisma mod, which is just 1 for now, but it'll add up over time. And finally we have our E with Grasp of Adar. Once per turn when we hit with our Eldritch Blast, we can yank the target back 10 feet toward us in a line. Reflavor the Eldritch Blast as a hand, and this works perfectly. So for our EQ combo, you'll cast Eldritch Blast and pull them back with Grasp of Adar. Then, thanks to War Magic, you'll be able to drop Nightfall on them with Eldritch Smite and Great Weapon Master for some massive damage. That's going to be an average of 72 damage, with a top end range of 116, and your target is prone for your allies to pound on. Or you can Action Surge and smash them again. Level 3 Warlocks pick up their Pact Boon, which we spoiled last level to be Pact of the Blade. This is going to let us turn Nightfall into our packed weapon and give us the enhancements we described earlier, and the rest is covered with Weapon Bond as well, so no need to recap. 6th level Undead Warlocks learn the Grave Touched feature, which would remove our need to eat and drink and breathe if we weren't Warforged. But it'll also allow us to turn any damage we deal into necrotic once per turn, and let us roll an additional damage die when we're in Form of Dread. Turning Nightfall's damage into necrotic instead of bludgeoning is going to let us bypass a lot of resistances. Level 7 Warlocks learn 4th level spells. We're going to pick up Dimension Door as a parallel to the teleport spell, and to help us skedaddle out of our ultimate. Dimension Door will let you teleport to anywhere within range as long as you can see it or visualize it, or describe it by directions. 10th level Undead Warlocks gain the Necrotic Husk feature. This is going to give us resistance to necrotic damage and immunity to it when we're in Form of Dread. Also, the first time we get knocked to 0 hit points, we can burn our reaction and drop to 1 instead and hit each creature of our choosing within 30 feet for 2d10 plus your Warlock level and necrotic damage. You do gain a level in Exhaustion, and you can't do it again for 1d4 long rests. It's a little taxing, but very powerful. Level 11 Warlocks gain their first Mystic Arcanum, which are very powerful spells that your patron gives you to use once per long rest. We're going to pick up our passive here with Investiture of Flame. This is going to make us a glowy boy with a 30-foot radius of bright light and 30 feet more of dim light as we light ourselves on fire, or have metal spray spinning around us, you know, whatever. You'll be immune to fire damage and have resistance against cold damage. Any creature that moves within 5 feet of you, or ends its turn within that range, takes 1d10 fire damage. Finally, you can use your action to generate a 15-foot line of fire, forcing a dex save on any creature in the path. They take 48 on a failure, or half on a success. The firebeam part isn't the best, but the other parts are great. And finally, at Warlock 13, we'll pick up our ultimate with Force Cage thanks to our 7th level Mystic Arcanum. The spell creates an immobile, invisible, cube-shaped prison of magical force. We're going to focus on the box approach because it allows no assistance from others. The box can be 10 feet on each side, so you're going to need to get in close to cast it. Once you're both trapped inside, the only way out is to teleport out, and you'll need to pass a charisma save to do that. Make sure you use this as often as possible to chaos your teammates. They'll definitely appreciate this. Alright, now that we've completed the build, let's see how we did. First, the good. We have created a hulking Iron Revenant with a massive health pool and a massive mace to smash some brains in. Getting the EQ combo is very exciting and will definitely create some iconic moments in your game. Finally, dragging people into your force cage and dueling them is going to be sick, and I hope you turn that up to 11 in the role-playing department. Now the bad. The main bad is that we don't really have a ton of magical utility or any real ranged threat beyond Eldritch Blast, so try to close the gap quickly and hold them down. This is kind of a niche build, but we're also really good at our niche, so that doesn't really matter. So what'd you think? I've included a link to this build via D&D Beyond in the description below, as well as Amazon links to the books used in this build. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where you'll get access to a great Discord community and some great perks. We plan on churning out one League Champion build every week. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you on the Rift, or in the Forgotten Realms.